Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is environmental impact assessment. Okay. The reason why I have taken this particular issue is that in yesterday's the Hindu newspaper, they have given this particular information. So they mentioned like there are lot many issues in the recently issued notification by the draft notification issued by the Ministry of Environment and Forest with respect to this EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. Okay. So in that context, I too felt like to provide a comprehensive analysis on environmental impact assessment. So along with that, I also felt it would be value addition if we also discuss about environmental laws in the country. So with that context, I divided the whole lecture into the given subtopics like environmental laws in the country and what exactly environmental impact assessment is all about. Next, how EAA will be actually conducted. Do we have any process or stages? If at all any stages are there, what are they? Next is challenges. So, what are the general challenges in the implementation of environmental impact assessment? And the current issue, the draft notification issued by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and what kind of changes that were made in the recently issued draft, and finally, what should be the way forward. So, in that way, the lecture actually goes. So, now if you see, like environmental laws in the country. So across the globe, if you see, by 1970s, we realized that in our developmental aspect, environment too should play a crucial role. So we started discussing about the concept of sustainable development. So for the first time in this Stockholm Declaration in the year 1972, where India was represented by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Okay. There, she famously comes up with one quote like poverty is the biggest polluter. Okay. In this particular declaration, Indira Gandhi mentions this particular one, like how poverty creates a challenge to environment. Okay. So in the similar way, so I'm just giving a few lines about each and every act because this is not our focus area here. But still, because here we are discussing about environment, so with that reason, I too felt like having an idea on these particular statutory and agreements, statutory provisions and agreements would be good. So next is if you see, if you take the case of 1972, because the 1972 Wildlife Protection Act and Project Tiger, these all are reactions to the Stockholm Declaration. All these developments took place aftermath of the Stockholm Declaration. Okay. So next, if you see with respect to water, immediately we have taken up this. We have this Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, Water Act, what we used to call. So with respect to regulating, like the water, it's about regulating water related information like when it comes to uses of the water, in what way it has to be used, what should be the purity of it. So all the aspects with respect to water will be dealt under an act called as Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. Okay. So accordingly, after that we have this Central Water Commission. Next, if you take the case of Air Act, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, so under which we created pollution control boards. We have two divisions, one at the central level, one at the state level. CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board. Next, State Pollution Control Board at the state level. So all these boards were created with the act called as Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. Next is the Forest Conservation Act. So this is with respect to conservation of the forest areas. So if any forest area that is we are giving for the agricultural purpose or for any purpose when we are dealing with the forest, so those aspects will be coming under the Forest Conservation Act 1980. So these all were previous to the Environmental Protection Act. So then finally came the act called as Environmental Protection Act 1986. So on the basis of this act, right now, all the environmental aspects in the country are getting regulated right now. Okay, because right now for each and every aspect, environment has become one of the dimensions that must be considered. It can be housing, it can be road construction, it can be railways, it can be any aspect you take. So in all these aspects, by taking environment into consideration is must. Okay, so that's why Environmental Protection Act 1986. So it created a kind of new kind. It started a new kind of discussion with respect to environment. So we seriously took this matter, the matter with respect to environment. Okay, accordingly, after that, as you all know, Public Liability Insurance Act. One of the reasons for this particular act is it's a kind of outcome of this Bhopal gas tragedy. Okay. Next is we have this Biological Diversity Act. Right now we have the GM crops, genetically modified crops. So for all those aspects with respect to biodiversity, this particular act deals with. Next, we have this coastal regulation zones. So in one class, I will be discussing in detail about what are the coastal regulation zones. We have CRZ1, CRZ2, CRZ3, CRZ4 like that. In the year 2016, we modified the rules with respect to coastal regulation zones. So that I will discuss in a separate lecture. But as of now, this is also one of the areas we have to pay attention on. Next, we have this Green Tribunal, National Green Tribunal Act, on the basis of which we create the Green Tribunal. So it specifically deals with the environmental aspects. Next, also we have this hazard management regulations. So these all are the different laws that are being operated in the country. Okay, with respect to environment. Okay, so that is the about laws in the country. Next, if you take what exactly environmental impact assessment is all about. So does it have any legal backup, or in on what basis this environmental impact assessment will be performed? So to understand this aspect, first see from where environmental impact assessment as a process the Minister of Environment and Forest is actually executing. On what basis? What is the legal stand? So the legal stand here we have taken from the 1986 Environmental Protection Act. So it is the Environmental Protection Act 1986 that provided legal status, legal status to environmental impact assessment, because in that particular act it was clearly mentioned. Okay, for giving for providing clearance to any project. Okay, environmental clearance also must. So to give environmental clearance to any particular project, so the environmental clearance has to follow the process. What is that process? That process got mentioned as environmental impact assessment. So according to this environmental clearance, we derive this environmental impact assessment. Then on the by because see there is a word called as what you call this as delegated legislation. Delegated legislation is the simple example to understand this particular environmental impact assessment. What is delegated legislation means? See, in the Environmental Protection Act, it mentioned that environment related aspects has to be regulated. It means if any project that is getting cleared, that should also get cleared with the Environment Ministry. Okay, so this is what we call as environmental clearance, EC. So how the environmental clearance will be given? Okay, for which we should follow a method. That method is what we call as environmental impact assessment. Okay, so just this environmental clearance mentioned in the Environmental Protection Act. By using this one, now the government in the sense here the union government, it comes up with the guidelines. So what kind of method we have to follow? So that's why the legal status for the environmental impact assessment derived from Environmental Protection Act. Accordingly, notifications for the implementation of the Environmental Impact Assessment Act will be released by the government, and these notifications is called gazette notifications. Okay, so once anything comes onto the gazette notifications, That's have equal power. So that is what delegate legislation. Okay. So as of now, three notifications were issued with respect to environmental impact assessment. One is the 1994 one, next is the 2006 one, and the recent draft. We haven't yet got the final notification because till 30th of June, with respect to public response, the government still opened this notification for public debate. After that, government will come up with the final draft. So as of now, it is a draft notification. It is not yet the final notification. Okay. So already two notifications were there, the 1994 one and the 2006 one. And the third one is the 2021 is the draft notification. It's not yet fully final notification. Okay. But in the draft notification itself, while the government mentioned some kind of amendments to the 2006 notification, this created some kind of challenge to the environmental activists. So what are those challenges? Those we will discuss later. First, let us try to understand the definition of it. If you see the definition, it's very simple. If you see the first two definitions, first one is given in the environmental impact assessment notification. Second one was given by the UNEP. The second definition was given by UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. First definition I have taken directly from the act, notification itself. So, what is environmental impact assessment? It is a framework. Framework means what? It contains rules and regulations. It is a framework for regulating activities that assess, utilize, and affect natural resources. So, in simple terms, natural resources means here the resources that are available in the nature, actually environment, in the surroundings. Okay. So, to these resources, if you are trying to utilize them, if you are trying to manage them, in that case, you need to follow a kind of framework. This framework is what we call as environmental impact assessment. Okay. In same definition given in a different way by the United Nations Environment Program. Thus, that definition makes a bit more sense because it is easily understandable. It's very simple, like environmental impact assessment is a tool to identify environmental socio-economic impact of the project prior to the decision making. So before starting of the project, okay. So by using environmental impact assessment as a tool, we will try to find out environmental, social and economic impact of the given project. This is what we call as environmental impact assessment. A tool to identify the environmental, socio-economic impact of the given project in simple terms. So this is what is called as environmental impact assessment. Fine. Next, come to the process. So what are the stages on the basis of which the environmental impact assessment process follows? So this you can take, suppose for example, here we will be discussing around some nine stages. So in that, what you call, I actually came up in a sequential manner. Though, so in that, the first one is screening. Okay, so we have things like screening, scoping, collecting the data. Next is implementation. Next, we have this measure like mitigation measures. Okay, risk assessment. So these all are the levels. We will discuss one by one. So if you take the process, first what will they do? Before, because first they will, the individuals or the organizations who wants their project to be cleared, they will submit the application to the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Then that application will be reaching to the select committee, expert committee. Expert committee will observe that. After observing that, then they will mention that let us start the environmental impact assessment process. So first what will they do? They will analyze the whole information. They will analyze the whole project. After analyzing the whole project, then they will be allowing for the process. Sometimes what will happen? Certain projects, suppose for example, if government declares that this particular project is of national importance, this particular project is of security point of view or defense point of view or security point of view very much important for the country, then immediately what the expert committee will do, it will not say that no environmental clearance required, allow it. Like that, there are certain projects, for those projects government will mention these are the projects for which environmental impact assessment is not required, these are the projects for which environmental impact assessment is required, so government will mention in the notification. Okay, accordingly, once the environmental impact assessment process starts, then the first it starts with screening. What is screening means here? First they will take the project. After taking the project, they will try to identify, that means the investment level. Okay, first they will try to identify, that means the investment. So how much investment it is? So where is the location? Is it near to the, suppose for example, is it near to the ecologically sensitive zone or out of it? Okay, what kind of development will take place because of this? If they are coming up with a copper factory near to the hilly location, if the wastage that is getting released from this factory, where it will go? Okay, what kind of development it will create? So this is screening, means first we will see, we will go superficially with respect to the type of the project and the location and all those. Then they will come to the scope. Scope means what here? What are the limits? What are the positive impacts? What are the negative impacts? Like the potential impacts. What is the potential impact of this particular project on environment? Okay, so if there is any damage happens because of this, what kind of measures we have to take? Mitigation means what? Reducing the risk. Mitigation means reducing the risk. So we know that because of this particular factory that is getting established in a near hilly area, that creates a kind of potential impact. According to the impact, if the impact is too much, they will not give permission. If the impact is less, then they will provide permission. Impact should be less, mitigation possibility should be more. Mitigation possibilities means the possibilities that are reducing the risk. In that case, then they will give the permission. Next, what will they do? The third one is collecting the data. They will collect the whole data with respect to the whole area, each and every aspect. Suppose, for example, if the factory got established, what kind of gases will be released? Because of this releasing of gases to the environment, what should be the impact on the plants? What should be impact on the animals? What should be impact on the humans? Okay, so this we will be coming to know once we collect the whole data with respect to the whole area. Okay, so this is what we call as collection of baseline data. Next is the fourth one, predicting the impact. Predicting means what? What is the positive impact? What is the negative impact? What is the short-term impact? What is the long-term impact? If the negative impact is too much, then do not give permission. If the negative impact is fine, it can be balanced, then provide permission. Okay. Next, so that's why before submitting your project to the environmental ministry, you have to take care of all these things. Then they will go for this, what kind of mitigation measures can be followed if the project is getting implemented. Next they will go for public hearing. This is the like almost like final stage. Then the project developers and the government officials will reach to the local place. There they will ask to the locals, are you okay for this project? So in the public hearing, if majority of the people accepts, yes, we are okay for this project, then they will say okay. Okay. If majority of the people protest, no, we do not want, then again there should be revisions. Again they have to come back with some revisions. There won't be environmental clearance will not be given for those kind of projects. Okay. Then after that they will take a decision. Okay, they will plan to take a decision. At the same time, while taking the decision also, they will monitor it. They will monitor the whole process. Okay, so then finally assessing the whole risk. So after public hearing, they will monitor the whole situation. Then they will assess the risk. If everything is fine, if it clears all the levels, then permission will be given. Environmental clearance will be given. Then if everything is all right, then they can start the project. So these are the stages, okay, through which the environmental impact assessment process will go. Understood that? So next is, what are the issues with especially with respect to this? What are the actual issues here? So issues, if you see, as we discussed, at each stage we have certain challenges. The first and foremost challenge, let me explain. Here, exemptions. It is up to the government to decide which particular project should come under the environmental impact assessment, which one should not come. So, if more number of projects comes under the category of exemptions, then what is the purpose of environmental impact assessment? What is the purpose of it? So, increasing number of exemptions to environmental impact assessment, ultimately questioning the very purpose of environmental impact assessment. So, this is the first challenge. Okay. Second one is with respect to the committee. Who are the members of this committee? Are they have are they came from are they coming from a specialized field, or are they just bureaucrats? Because with respect to environment, if you are dealing with environment, then you should take members of the committee from all the different fields. You should be having members from like specialist persons from environment, on environment, and we should have some specialists on agriculture. Okay, some on what you call this from the economic side. So it should be from all. So the expert committee should be a combination of all the dimensions. But in general, what exactly happening here? Majority of these expert committee members, those who are part of this assessing process, mostly they are actually coming from the only bureaucratic background. If only bureaucratic background persons comes, you will be getting only one dimension of that particular project. If you get experts from all the areas, from environment, from agriculture, from finance, then you will be getting a comprehensive idea about the project. But the challenge here right now is majority of the members of the expert committee are being filled with bureaucrats. Second challenge. Okay. The third challenge. So this is somewhat more very challenging issue. It's about what you call public hearing. So in general, before starting of the project, the public hearing has to happen. But sometimes what these people will, they will start the project. In the middle of the project, they will come for the public hearing. Then public will say that, but then public will say, if public says no, then the protest will start. Then for the delaying of the project, on one side damages to the environment, on the other side protests, ultimately creating a kind of a very difficult situation. Okay, that is with respect to public hearing. Next is with respect to government discretion. As I told you, it is the government that will decide whether a particular project that has to come under the strategic category or not. Because if any project that comes under the strategic category, no environmental impact assessment required, they will be exempted. Okay. In general, defense and security related projects, they will not require any of the environmental impact assessment process. They will be directly, they can start their projects, because their government says that's for the country's security point of view, we should give importance, even though it is costing environment, but still their country's security is more important. Okay, but the challenge right now is these kind of projects, they keep on getting increased. The number of projects that are coming under the strategic category, they are getting increased. Okay, on which government is the sole authority. So it is slowly, what it is doing, it is actually reducing the public participation. Okay, ultimately under this environmental impact assessment, we want public participation, so that we will come to know all the time, like we will come to know all the challenges from all the sides. Because at the end of the day, ultimately the people who are living in and around that particular project, they are the major sufferers. So that's why we have to include them, okay, when you're coming up with a project in that particular area. But under this particular discretionary category, Okay. It is again creating a challenge for the implementation of environmental impact assessment. Okay. So then these are the general issues. Then if you come to the specific issues with respect to the notification. First of all, as if you see the notification, it is not offering anything new. As I mentioned, the not much of changes in the expert committee. Still, the bureaucratic presence will be there in finishing the process. Okay. Second thing, as I mentioned, as most of the projects are coming under the strategic category and under the exemption category, public engagement. Yeah, to be actually here the very purpose of environmental impact assessment is engaging the public. But in the notification, if you are exempting majority of the projects for the environmental impact assessment and creating more of the like giving more like adding more number of projects under the strategic category, ultimately reducing the public engagement with respect to environmental impact assessment. Okay. Next, as mentioned in the again in the notification, government mentioned like for a if the particular project comes under strategic category, then no information will be disclosed from the government side. So it's ultimately questioning what. So it's ultimately so if the government it's not true right every time government will do the right thing, especially with respect to environment. Sometimes in the name of security, in the name of defense, it might be damaging the environment. So this is the concern for the environmentalists. So they are saying like, see, COVID-19 and these situations. So they are pushing the governments to go for the growth side. So if growth happens, then money will be generated. More amount of money will be generated. So where environmentalists are worrying right now is that this push for growth for the governments, it may cost heavily for the environment. If it is costing heavily for the environment, it will have a long-term impact. Okay, so this is the concern with respect to that. It's not like they are they're actually negating the government. The why they are negating with the government here is that because the present modifications in the notification with respect to the environmental impact assessment process, it's ultimately creating a huge negative impact on environment. So this will be having a long-term consequences like climate change. This may intensify. Okay, so this is the concern here. Next, as if you see the other examples also I mentioned here, for the government projects, let's suppose this road widening, road expansion projects, inland waterways. Okay, no public hearing. Directly government can proceed. Okay. Next year I mentioned one thing like provisions for post facto project clearance. Post facto means already one project got decided and you are not given permission for that. But now what is notification mentioning? Those who haven't got the permissions with revisions, they can come back again for permissions. So the intention here is to allow them to start the work. But the challenge is initially why their project was not cleared. Environmentalists are arguing like because they have their project having more concern with respect to environment, that's why the project was not cleared. Now what the government is saying, now those projects also they can come for reclearance, we will revise again. So environmentalists are arguing like if in this way things happens, then it is costing the environment more. So at the cost of growth you are costing the environment. Okay, so these are the issues with respect to the notification. Next, finally, what should be the way forward? So in what way, like if we proceed so that at least the authenticity of the environmental impact assessment will be there, because right now, but there are some people who are questioning this process also, because unnecessarily for small projects also it is creating a huge delay in decision making. Okay, sometimes they won't give permission for 1 year 2 years. So this is what some people are questioning with respect to the process, but still, because right now we are into this sustainable development process, So as India also one of the members of the Sustainable Development Goals project under the UNDP, United Nations Development Program. So definitely we have to give importance to environment. And in the recent past, we are taking up, we are what you call proudly saying like we are taking up lot many initiatives that are actually for sustainable development. But these kind of modifications to the process, so that's actually questioning our intention, like what we are saying, but it is not really happening. So this is what is the what you call pain for environmentalists. Okay. So ultimately, finally, what should be the way forward? The first one should be there should be an independent IEA authority. So in simple terms, here we want to further give what you call autonomous status to environmental impact assessment, so that there won't be much involvement of political and bureaucratic persons. So the influence of political and bureaucratic people will be reduced if you provide autonomy to it. Next is the number of exempted projects should be reduced. Definitely, that should be the point, because if the exemptions are getting more, then ultimately it questions the very existence of environmental impact assessment. Yes or no? Okay. Next is, as we mentioned, as we discussed, one of the limitations of this EAA is the expert committees. The what you call the stakeholders in the expert committees. So now we have to widen the scope of expert committee. We should take people from other dimensions, like as we mentioned, from environment specialists, and from specialized field like economy, agriculture, climate. So these expert specialist persons should be added in the expert committees. Next, there should be kind of some like automatic withdrawal of the clearance. If any project, if they are violating the environmental norms, after getting cleared by the environmental impact assessment, still if they are after that if they are violating, automatically their EC has to be it got cancelled. It should be cancelled, so that they will fear. They will always they will take precautionary measures. Next should be stringent punishment for violators. There should be stringent punishment should be given. Finally, awareness generation, strengthening capacity building. That means we should create awareness to the people. Okay, here we can take the help of non-governmental organization, civil society. Okay, so with the help of them, so we can actually create an awareness with respect to why do we need to protect the environment, because that's the ultimate purpose of this environmental impact assessment. Okay, so in that way, if we go, then we can maintain the authenticity of the environmental impact assessment. It means the reason for which it was uh, created. Next, and at the same time, we can also reach our targets with respect to sustainable development goals. Okay, we have the 17 goals. Okay, so all the 17 goals are with respect to sustainable development. So we have certain goals with respect to environment also. Okay, so we can also we can also support our sustainable development goals program. Okay, so these are the advantages. So with that note, I am ending the topic. Thank you.